Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. That's the name of our radio show. That's the name of this podcast. Martin, Devlin, Lachlan, War. We do a 3-hour sports show every afternoon on the Platform and put the highlights together for you in podcast form. Just another excellent weekend of sport and prospect. Again, highlighted by the two twin oval ball codes. Rugby World Cup, Wales, Oz, Samoa, Argentina, and the big one, Sunday morning, Ireland versus South Africa. We are all over this like the Springbok forward pack attack in the breakdown. Then league. The two prelim finals, the raging bull, Gorden Tallis, joining us to both discuss and dissect. Can the Wars cause another finals upset? Mardo, Costo. We have more sport than is feasibly necessary. But we begin every day, same old way. Tablets in hand, I say, gather my flock. It's time for a sermon. I've got to be honest when predicting the Warriors versus Brisbane. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Big question for this weekend. Can the Warriors beat the Broncos Saturday night? Serious question needing an analytical rather than an emotional answer. And the answer is yes, of course they can. It's a game of sport. Either side can win. The real question, though, is will they? And my honest reply to that is no. No, they won't. Brisbane are a better side. That's a fact. The table doesn't lie. They've been one of the two best all season, smacking the Storm in the first round of the playoffs. Do not underestimate for a second how good their side is, because it's easy to do amidst all the euphoria and the up-the-warness that's going on in this country. Popularity and support doesn't equate to making one side better than the other when they take the field. And when you go through the lineups man for man, I've got only about 4 or 5 players from the Warriors that might make the Brisbane side. Player for player, they are better. So again, it's not like the Warriors can't win. But to do so, I believe we're going to have a Ryan Fox-esque back nine at Wentworth-type performance to achieve it. Everything has to go perfectly on our side, and they need to have an off day, which can happen. Of course it can. But back to the original question, will it? And if I'm honest, if my head rules my head with this particular match, when it comes to up the wah, I got to be honest. And my honest answer is, yeah, nah.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
You've got 2.5 hours to figure out where it is in New Zealand without Googling it. 1:11 news headlines then, a what?
Well, I'm going to start off with what is just an incredibly encouraging, barnstorming headline that I think should quash all fears around the All Blacks. Rugby World Cup, niggle in the sun as All Blacks ramp up intensity in Bordeaux. Well, I'm sorted. I'm done. We're winning the World Cup. I'm sold. The intensity in training.
Cynicism, but is this just so predictable? Show us some pictures then if that's the case.
Well, I've got 2 pictures here of Artie and Rico with their shirts off.
Yeah, but they're walking hand in hand, aren't they? Come on.
They are pretty much
Show us
hand
some
in
actual vision of it, please.
Fozzie with a stern look on his face.
Okay, well, again, show us...
Richie Mwanga's got a backwards cap. He means business.
You know what the frustrating thing is at the moment, people, is that you can't get near the All Blacks.
You can't.
Their PR machine will not return phone calls. They won't return texts. They won't even acknowledge a message at the moment. This is really unlike them because Matt Monakia and Joe, we get on with real well.
Yep,
and they're
very
always
well.
in constant communication. At the moment, unless you are there...
And it's other radio stations as well.
Yeah,
I've got good mates at other radio stations.
They are shutting it down.
They are experiencing
Remember
the same.
a couple of weeks ago I said that as of next year, you will get nowhere near the All Blacks unless you pay to, which is subscribe through NZR+. Watch it. This is coming. Mark my words. It's coming.
Yeah, sure is. All right, former Test winger Drew Mitchell has demanded Eddie Jones explain some of his selection decisions, and he blames the coach for putting the Wallabies in danger of missing the quarterfinals for the first time ever at the Rugby World Cup. Speaking on a podcast which also features former Wallabies Adam Ashley Cooper and Matt Gitto, 71 Test Mitchell blasted Jones in a foul-mouthed rant. Let's not take away from the fact that Fiji played really well, but let's also not take away from the fact that we effing shouldn't have lost to Fiji. He goes on to explain a fair bit more, does Drew Mitchell, but it's quite an empowering bit of audio, I'd say. Well, maybe not empowering, but punchy bit of audio. All right, motorsport fans in New Zealand, get ready. The dates for Supercars return have been locked in. April 19 to 21 is confirmed as the weekend that supercars will be heading down to Taupo. And that's a great time of year to do it, I think. March, April, when it's autumn, the weather's still relatively dry. It's not too wet in the country and still relatively mild. I actually think if you coupled it with the Taupo Marathon, that'd be the Ironman, that'd be great. If you could. Well, that's an all-day thing, maybe not. Anyway, all right, most of Spain's World Cup winning players, their Women's Football World Cup winning players, that is, have ended their boycott of the national team after the government intervened to help shape an agreement that was expected to lead to immediate structural changes at the country's football federation. More issues with Spanish football, but I guess a resolution of sorts. Champions League this morning, Manchester United played, the powerhouse that is Manchester United, and their stellar new goalkeeper, Onana making Nana saves, letting in 4 goals. 4-3 Bayern Munich beat Man United. I thought, the fact that you guys scored 3 is actually quite impressive. Arsenal beat PSV 4-0. Inter Milan, runners-up last season, they drew their first game. Napoli got a win. Real Madrid got a 1-0 win. I think Jude Bellingham scored again. He's scoring every game.
Last second of the game, mate, got a tap.
As well, yeah. 94th minute. New Zealand middle and long distance runner, Zane Robertson has been arrested for questioning at his home in Kenya on suspicion of sexual assault and being in possession of an unlicensed firearm. Now, these are reports, not confirmed at this stage. Now, Robertson, you may know that name, was this year banned for 8 years by the Sports Tribunal after a prohibited substance was found in his system. He also tampered or tried to tamper with part of the doping control process, the Sports Tribunal ruled. So it's been a pretty terrible year for Zane Robertson. We'll see if we can get more confirmation out of that story as the show goes on. The Taranaki Airs, the New Zealand NBL team, have been sold to an Australian sports media company fronted by former NBA first-round draft pick Chris Anstey. Never heard of the bloke. The news was confirmed by Taranaki Airs GM Cole Brown, who was on the Gold Coast this week, finalising the deal with Media 8, the company that is behind the deal. That's what's making... Oh, actually, no, just quickly, Rugby World Cup this morning. We had a game this morning. I had no idea. It was a Pool A game, so the pool that the All Blacks are in. Italy taking on Uruguay. Uruguay, I think, led at half-time, but Italy ran away with it in the end, 38-17, and they got a bonus point. So because the All Blacks lost their first game, we want Italy to get as few points as possible, but they did get maximum points this morning. That's what's making...
Devlin,
Unbelievable! Incredible!
the platform.
Raging Bull. Do I need to say anything else? As soon as you say Raging Bull, it's only one of 2 people, either Jake LaMotta or, when it comes to league, it's Gorden Tallis. One of the most gentle, lovely people you will meet outside of the field, just an unstoppable beast inside the lines. He joins us to preview Warriors versus Broncos. Gorden, just before we get on to sort of man for man and who's the better team and the momentum and all of these questions I want to ask you, we were playing yesterday. We went back to the very first interview we did with Andrew Webster, and it was a stand-up press conference back in January when it was pre-season training. And one of the questions I asked him was about Sean. And at that stage, he didn't know that Sean was going to be the starting halfback. And he said, look, he's in the mix with 3 or 4 others, and if he plays well, he'll keep the jersey. So it wasn't, it wasn't as though it was actually right at the very start that he knew that he was going to light the litmus paper with Sean.
No, well, because Sean Johnson, like we all look at his highlight reel and it was a bit like Benji Marshall, but, the substance is, doing what your team needs you to do, So for the rugby fans, it was a bit like Carlos Spencer, they got this amazing highlight reel, but, in the end, they weren't getting the job done, right? Where Sean Johnson this year is what they call playing the long game, and it's pretty much putting your team first, and it's been absolutely outstanding what he's done. He's so they call it the game management, but his game management and putting his team in great positions to build pressure has been absolutely outstanding. And he played at Cronulla, he spent some time over here, and and that's the chat that he probably didn't have the seasons that he would like. And last year at the Warriors, like as you said, they didn't, they won a handful of games, and it comes down to your halfback to put you in those winning positions. And this year's just been a total turnaround. It's been the best year I've ever watched Sean Johnson play. So it's a credit to him. He looks settled. He looks happy. And, I suppose when you get older and you lose that speed and you can't do the things that you normally do, I suppose you rely on your teammates a little bit more. So maybe the penny has dropped for him.
I can't wait for the first couple of hit-ups where Payne Haas and Adam Whanua Blake
yes.
go
I'm
looking
going to
for
be
each
so
other,
great,
mate.
Matt. I'll have a first beer. I'll be sitting there, mate. I reckon I'll be finished my pie, and I'll be just sitting there just waiting for kickoff, just waiting for those 2 big guys. And, they're probably fighting it out for Dally M, front rower of the year. And, Aidan Fanua-Blake, his try last week, and Payne Ass, well, he's been probably Brisbane's most consistent forward for the last 3 or 4 years. So what a battle that will be.
Is it still your favourite part of the game? It is mine, mate. I mean, I'm a skinny dude. I could never do this, but I love watching big men smash against big men, man.
Absolutely. It's the part of the game that I love. It's the part of the game that I played in. And, I love the skills. So, what happens is, right, we all start out. So this is my theory. We all start out as a halfback. But every time we pick the ball, right, we want to be that pretty little guy on the field. We want to be the Dan Carters. We want to be the Shaun Johnsons. And as you get slower and older and you can't kick and you can't pass like them, they just keep on moving you in. It's a bit like everybody wants to run in 100 metres.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But some of us have to be marathon runners, right? So basically, mate, no one wants to run a marathon to get a gold medal. They want to run 9 seconds.
That's it.
Not like 9 hours. So, yeah, but you know what? It's mate, it should be a great clash. And, over here, like, it's buzzing. Like, I'm in Sydney, it's buzzing because it's finals time and, Penrith versus Melbourne. But in Queensland, you can't get a ticket. It's sold out. It's going to be pumping. It's huge. I spoke to the Brisbane coach in Kevy yesterday, and they're excited. But, they know it's a huge challenge, right? Coming up against the Warriors because they've got so much momentum. And watching that last week, that was some of the greatest scenes I've seen.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Mate,
superb. Yeah.
Mate,
yeah.
I've been sitting on the couch, mate, to get your wife and your 4-year-old and your kids to sit around and watch a game of footy, like the whole game of footy.
Wow.
It's pretty hard to do, right? But, it was just such great scenes. I was driving home, the radio guys were building it up. I'm thinking, is he overcooking this? Then you turn on Fox and then just the sea of people and, the way they started and played, it was amazing.
And the noise erupting.
Yeah.
This is the closest we've had in this country to an English football game. We've had several different sporting moments involving New Zealand teams and semi-finals and World Cup finals of rugby and that kind of stuff. But this crowd has just gathered its own momentum too, which is the coolest thing about it. When I started by saying it's just swept the country. Gordon, I was at my son's master's graduation on Monday. Big proud moment for the family. And as the students come across, there's always 1 or 2 family members who yell out things. Mate, it was only 5 minutes in and somebody's yelling up the wires. That's a graduation ceremony.
Well, I don't know where it come from. So over here, I think Shaun Johnson saying that he claimed it. He walked past someone one day and said, up the wires. I don't know who started it, but it's pretty cool. It's captured. My kids are saying it.
Wow.
But to me, I played against the Warriors, right?
Yep.
I'm not going to disrespect them. They're Warriors to me, right? So I know that if I'm playing a game of footy and someone said, do you want to play against a War or a Warrior? I'd rather play against a War than a Warrior.
Gorden Tallis is with us, absolute legend of the game. Let's not forget, and we got to temper everything about the Warriors with the fact of who we're playing. This Brisbane side isn't there because they've just landed there. The two best sides in the comp all year are Penrith and Brisbane, and I am a great respecter of consistency, of where you finish on the points table, and I go back to the way that your team smashed the Melbourne Storm in that opening game. Yes. So we have to go up a level above Newcastle. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think the deeper you go into the finals, you're playing against better quality teams. And you're right, Brisbane have been super consistent. Through the year, they've improved out of sight, but so have the Warriors. The Warriors have improved as well. They're probably 2 of the most improved sides in the competition. Don't forget, 3 years ago, Brisbane got the wooden spoon.
Yeah, right.
So then this year, they've been building nicely. After round 10, I never would have thought they'd be in this position. I knew they were probably going to play finals, but I didn't think they'd finish equal first. But they've had a great season, same as the Warriors. And the way the Warriors started last week, I think the first 15 minutes, it was 16-0. I think the Warriors the Knights had only completed 2 sets. You do that against any side, it's hard to win. It is extremely difficult to win. So that's a challenge for the Kiwis, is to just replicate what they did last week, and you got to go up another level because you think you're playing against a really good team that are going to try to do the same to you.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
Next!
It's time we had a little game on.
We need to talk.
Not that.
We need to talk.
What is more chance of happening, Lachlan?
Next!
I present a scenario to you and you tell me what is more chance of happening. Now, we did this yesterday, but I've got a whole lot of new ones for you.
Next!
The Warriors beat the Broncos. Or Ireland beat South Africa this weekend.
What's more likely? Ooh, Ireland beating South Africa. Absolutely.
I reckon that this is as close to 50-50 as any game of international sport I've ever sat there previewing. Ever.
It's on Sunday morning, isn't it?
They are that evenly matched.
And they played either at the end of 2021 or the end of last year, I'm pretty sure. And Ireland narrowly won, but it was like 1 or 2 points, and it was a cracking game.
Next!
They are from a forwards perspective quite even. Both have strike up the back, very well coached, in incredible form. I think they both have this air of confidence about them. This Irish team is different to previous ones. There's a swagger about them, I think, as well. This is going to be incredible.
What is more chance of happening, Lachlan? The Warriors break your Broncos' heart or Samoa beat Argentina?
I'm going to say there's more chance of Samoa beat Argentina.
I think they realistically go in with at least, again, a 50-50 chance in that game.
Great chance.
Argentina have not been impressive all year. They beat Australia, almost lost to Australia, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only narrowly beat them.
They lost to us. They got towelled by South Africa. They were awful against England in that game. I watched that game. They were
very ill-disciplined.
Samoa, this is your right royal chance. And no All Black game this weekend. My heart's with Manu Samoa. Come on, you lads. Get up and get yourselves into the quarterfinals.
Next!
What is more chance of happening? The Warriors go to Brisbane and just do a number on you. Or Wales beat Australia this weekend at the Rugby World Cup.
Wales beating Australia. I think that's got more chance of happening. Because again, I think a bit like the other two games, maybe not so much a coin flip, but I think it is a coin flip because I don't think either side is that good at all at the moment. I think Wales got out of jail a little bit in that Fiji game and had 20 or 30 brilliant minutes. The ref really sided with them. And I think Australia are better than that loss to Fiji.
I'm missing a couple of crucial players, front row players, mate, for this game. I think Gatland is so pragmatic that he will get away with a 3-0 win.
Gross.
It'll be an awful game of rugby.
Gross.
There will be nothing good about this game of rugby at all, apart from the tension because of who wins it. That's all.
Next!
What is more chance of happening, Lachlan? Wow, 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 wow. Up your wow, 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 wow.
I'm so sick of up the wires.
Or Man United keep a clean sheet in their next match.
You're away to Burnley, aren't you? There's more chance that the Warriors beat the Broncos. You guys have conceded
You nasty
13
piece
goals.
of work, mate. Come on, man.
You guys have conceded something like 13 or 14 goals.
It's not just conceding goals, it's the way we concede them too. Our defence is pathetic. I wish I was at these games. I stayed one game at Old Trafford. I stayed for 45 minutes to call them effing C's at the end of the game, the players, as they were leaving the... I mean, I was a different person back
14
then.
goals.
I was angry back then, or more angry. But we are just a rabble at the back. Our keeper is hopeless. Our defenders look as though they've never met each other. There is no chance that Man United will keep a clean sheet. No chance.
Next!
What is more chance
14
happening,
goals, by the way. 14 goals in
I know,
6
mate.
games.
I've lived them all. What is more chance happening? The Warriors overturn the form book and the bookies' form to beat the Broncos, or Fiji make the quarters at either Wales or Australia's expense?
I think Fiji making the quarters has more chance of happening.
Georgia
they are
and then Portugal.
Well,
Okay.
they've got the two toughest games are out of the way.
Yeah, they've
And-
got to win these next 2 games. Georgia crucial. And then do remember their very final game is the last pool match at the Rugby World Cup. But I think Fiji have got it in their hands now. And the way that they played against Australia was a different kind of
It
Fiji.
was smart
Yes, it
rugby,
was,
I
mate.
thought.
Yes, it was. They were pragmatic. They got the job done, just like England did against Argentina.
Next!
What is more chance of happening? The Warriors beat the Broncos and make the premiership grand final, or Fozzie starts the quarterfinal with 2 ball-playing props and Nepo and offer.
Well, Ethan de Groot will be back from suspension then. Tyrell Lomax could be back. His World Cup's not over, so they're anticipating that he'll be there for the knockouts. So I think that'll be his selection. Therefore, I think there is more chance, thankfully, well, no, not thankfully, actually, but there's more chance, thankfully for the All Blacks' sake, that the Warriors beat the Broncos this weekend.
If Fozzie starts with those two guys, I am no longer an All Black fan in that game.
Well,
I hate to say it out loud, but I'm not. I watched these two guys. I watched this in 2019, just getting fannied by England. And ever since then, our ball-playing props have never worked in any match of any consequence.
Agreed.
And that's the truth, and it happens in sport. You're not good enough. What is wrong with saying that? You aren't good enough. And in every other aspect of your life, you get told that.
But you haven't been in the environment.
You haven't been in, says TJ Pettinar. No,
So
I haven't
shut
been in
your
the environment, but I've watched a lot of rugby, mate, and I know whether you're good enough or not, all right?
Next.
What is more chance of happening, Lachlan? The Warriors take care of business on Saturday night. Or Tim Southey plays the opener of the one-day World Cup versus England. Now, he has a broken and dislocated thumb. He's going in for surgery. Gary Stead says if it goes okay and he can handle the pain, we want him available for that opener. That opener is in 2 weeks. He's got a broken and dislocated thumb.
That he's going to have surgery on. I do not think he's playing.
He's not playing the opener, mate. There's no way he's playing the opener, surely. Why risk him in the opener?
But cricket's a lot like baseball, that if you have any
bowling hand.
Any type of injury to your bowling hand, or in baseball your pitching hand or your pitching arm, then the injury is like magnified because of how much you're using that part of your body in what is a very odd motion for your body. It's not comfortable, if that makes sense. It's not good for it. So no, there's much more chance the Warriors beat the Broncos.
Patrick McGarry from Sports Joe on the show.
Such a strange thing to actually consider, that you might want to face the All Blacks in a World Cup quarter final, and that's what the South Africans are thinking. That's what we're thinking. It's insane to kind of even say it out loud, but that both sides kind of want to win the pool because they want to avoid France in the quarterfinals.
No, I got to go back to the mountaintop on this, people. All Blacks. What has happened to us? We are on the precipice of being the worst ever side from New Zealand to attend a Rugby World Cup. Just pause for a second and try and reconcile that. If we lose in the quarterfinal, then this All Black squad is the first to lose a group match and get knocked out without even making the semi-finals. Shameful. Shameful. In terms of All Blacks standard previously set, this is tail between the leg stuff. This is sneak back into the country stuff. This is worst case scenario stuff. Yeah, it could happen. But on the flip side, let's look at glass half full. We win the quarterfinal, we bowl through the semi, a winner-take-all final, and hey, we're the All Blacks. Johnson out, conquer the world again, re-establish ourselves as the planet's #1 rugby team. What is more likely, though? I read today we had a tough, aggressive training session. Tempers flared. Really? Well, my cynical self says that's just more made for PR guff and stuff. I need to see on-field evidence. I want to see it versus Italy in a test match that matters for 80 controlled minutes. What I'm really struggling with right now, what I find particularly embarrassing, is that both South Africa and Ireland want us in the quarterfinals. Say that out loud. They don't want the hosts, France. They want us. Since when does any team choose to play the All Blacks at a World Cup? Because it's an easier game. But that's where we're at right now. That's how the rest of the world view us. That's how much the fear factor has gone. The once invincible aura. That's how much it's changed. Saffers versus Mix this weekend. South Africa versus Ireland. This is the match-up at the Rugby World Cup, which could be a preview of the final. What is so miserable and depressing about this is both of these teams are saying, well, their fans, their commentators, those that will say publicly are, that they'd rather face us in the quarterfinals than France. Oh my God, what has happened to us? Andy Capostagno, out of the Republic. The cards are out on the table. This is what I like about your side as well, mate, is that there's no pretense. This is how we're going to play. This is who we're going to bring on. We are going to out-bully you, and if you try and match us doing that, well, good luck, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, look, everybody's talking about the 7-1 split on the bench, and you mentioning bullying, and everybody's talking about that physical aspect. But I think what's really the reason behind that 7-1 split is that they don't want to lose the pace in the last half hour of the game. That is really the secret to this Springbok success. And it is a defensive pace more than an attacking pace. They stop other teams from playing because they are so well organized in defense. They don't want fatigue to get in the way. That's why they've picked the extra forward. And you're quite right. Ireland know what's coming. It's up to them to find a way around it, and I'm not sure they can.
Andy, looking at that Irish side, Andy Capostagno is with us, damn good mate out of South Africa. Looking at that Irish side and the way that they have played over the last couple of years, I mean, it's been faultless. They play fantastic rugby. They can score tries from anywhere. They're big and bruising up front as well. But we still all have lingering doubts, don't we? Why is that?
Well, I think it's probably because they've done what you guys used to do, which is peak between World Cups. That tour of New Zealand last year, when they beat you for the first time in a series in New Zealand, was the absolute pinnacle that they achieved, and they deserve every pat on the back for doing it. But I just get the feeling that a couple of their players, and Sexton is one of them, have just come to the end of their career a few months too early for this World Cup. So. And that is not to say that they can't beat the Springboks. If they do everything right on Saturday, and the Springboks make a few errors, and maybe they lose a couple of backs early in the game, and that evens up the situation, Ireland can win. But I think if you played this game sort of 10 times, that the Springboks would win 7 of them.
Going back to Mount Smart, where we attacked you really fast out the gate, blew you away in the first 20 minutes, and then came back into the game, and then we came early at the end as well. Came late as well, and scored a really good win against you. Since then, though, and that was your best team. Since then, though, what has really changed? Because you've gone up another gear, it seems, and I'm waiting, and I suppose all of us are, that you're going to have an off day at some stage. Is that possible, and why is that change?
Well, I think we spoke about it at the time, that South Africa weren't showing all of their cards at that stage. They knew that the important time to win a game was at the World Cup, not in a rugby championship that was a little bit denuded because it was a World Cup year. But the thing that we have to really single out is Siya Kolisi. The Kolisi factor is enormous, and the way that they got him ready for this World Cup. And he's looked at the very top of his game. I commentated on Kolisi at the beginning of our season over here, and I felt he was in the form of his life. And so it was a real tragedy that he had to miss 4 months when he was in such great form. But he's come back, apparently fully fit, and apparently back to the top of his game. But more than anything else, it is his leadership. His ability to unite the whole squad and get the whole of South Africa behind him gives the Springboks an extra player on the field. That's the difference.
You know, normally when we chat, I feel like I've got a pile of rocks beside me, and I just like biffing rocks at you. At the moment, I feel like I've just got a tub of ice cream, and I'm just throwing ice cream at you. I got nothing, mate. I got nothing. All I want to do is prick your confident balloon, and I can't do. Look, this World Cup, you're approaching it completely different from 4 years ago, and 4 years ago you ended up winning the goddamn thing. This time, have you ever been so confident going into this stage of the tournament?
No, never. I was actually thinking exactly that, because my first World Cup in South Africa was 95. And I was, because I was fairly fresh out of the UK at the time, I came out in 92, and my first rugby season here was 93. I was the confident one then. I was saying, wow, this Springbok side is an amazing team. They've got people like Andre Hubert, who are as good as anybody in the world. They've got Ostirant, they've got this, that, and the other. Why are people not expecting them to win? But the difference this time is that this is a juggernaut of a side that is frightening people in the way that the All Blacks did under McCaw and Carter. And I'm not saying that this is as clinical a side as those All Black sides, but I am saying that I would love to have seen this side play that side.
The Tide 5.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly 60 seconds, minute or so on each. When the bell, well, we ding on to the next one ourselves. How do the Wars beat the Bronx? Put your Wars hat on, even though you're wearing a Broncos jersey at the moment. Ireland, South Africa, both want us in the quarterfinals. Man, I've never heard anything so deflating about the All Blacks in years. Just what? Teams now look at us and they want to play us? What are we, the Blues of international rugby? Is that what we've become? Italy versus Uruguay? Did anyone even know that game was on? Gorden Tallis is everyone's favourite rugby league player. Tell me I'm wrong on that. Andy Capostagno talking about the 7-1 split and the All Blacks getting all testy at training. Oh, just stop it, mate. Get testy during the test match. Let's talk about that. What the hell has happened to us that now teams are looking at us and they say, we want you in the knockout. We want you in the knockout.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be an easier opponent than France, the hosts.
It is so...
That's humbling, mate, isn't it?
Well, it's a bit embarrassing.
Well, what it is we are no longer that team anymore. Now, we can convince ourselves and con ourselves and tell ourselves as many times as we possibly want to that we are still the big swinging knob of international rugby. But no one else believes that anymore. And that is because of what? It is because of results.
Yeah.
The fact that we can't seem to able to get any consistency as a team, and that's only been for 4 years, okay? So if it was just this year, and we'd had, a rambunctious year last year, people wouldn't be saying that. If it was this year and last year, they probably would be thinking it, but they wouldn't be saying it. The fact that since England dicked us in 2019, that we have been that side that is vulnerable is why people are saying this, right?
Yeah.
It's a legitimate, to me, it is a legitimate statement to make. If I'm Ireland or South Africa, I don't want the hosts. I want you guys, because we know we can beat you, because Ireland have beaten us, and South Africa have beaten us. And they know.
Yeah. It's consistently inconsistent results. It is. I mean,
plus, we've got nobody that scares the opposition, Lachlan. Maybe in the back line we do. Throw it out to Will Jordan and work a miracle for us, mate.
Yeah, he's got to get the ball, though, doesn't he? There's no one in the forward pack that
is intimidating.
No. We don't do any element. We don't. There's not one part of rugby that we perform at better than other teams.
I think broken play. I still believe broken play. Like, if you give us a chance and the ball, we can turn.
No, because we kick it away all the time.
Oh, yeah.
That's the problem. So we don't have the same forwards as South Africa. We don't, or Ireland, I don't think. It's set piece time. We're pretty appalling compared to those two. I think France have as much flair as us, if you will. We've seen it. Ireland as well. And even the Springboks, like that try they scored with Mane Lebok putting in that crossfield kick, not even looking.
Yeah.
They all do everything better than us.
Plus, they got a guy that kicks 9 out of 10. Italy versus Uruguay. Did you know it was on?
I did not.
I didn't know it was on either. And so what are we actually meant to take from that game?
Nothing.
Apart from that,
Uruguay are maybe a bit more competitive than Namibia.
Gorden Tallis. Is he your favourite player, NRL player? He must be amongst your top 2 or 3 favourite players ever. Come on. You're a Broncos fan.
Well, I wasn't a Broncos fan while he was playing. He'd be one of my 3 or 4. Yeah.
Why?
Oh, he's just... I have this real love affair with guys in league and union as well, but very much guys in league. And I like this. What I love about Shane Webcke and Brad Thorne: hard ass, do their job, get meters, set the platform, no nonsense. They don't run about and say stupid things like Jerome Luai and sit there taking pictures of themselves in front of the goalpost saying, "Oh, all you've got to go to work tomorrow anyway." Yeah, they just shut up and do their job.
Yeah.
Which I love.
I think they, you know what I like? To me, they are just men, is what they are. They are hard ass. They are intimidating. They're not bullies and they're not a-holes and they're not all of that. But physically, they're like Buck Shelford. Yeah. You want to come and get some. Yeah. Oh,
the thing I love about Gorden Tallis as well, one of the greatest ever second rowers in the NRL, could play anywhere on the forwards, but predominantly was a second rower. He comes across as one of the most lovely and softest men in the world as well. And there's a really lovely video where he's I think there's a video of Kevin Walters presenting a jersey to Billy Walters when he's playing. It might have been when he made his Broncos debut, but I think it was when he was at the Tigers. And Gorden Tallis obviously knows Kevin Walters and a lot of those Broncos old boys really well, and he got quite teary just how happy he was to see a dad giving his son his first professional jersey and whatnot, and he broke down in tears, and it was lovely. Yeah,
there's a real soft side to him. I can't wait. He's just a couple of minutes away. It's Big Gordy. I was meant to talk about this yesterday, but we had a power cut. I'll just throw it in quickly. Ben Simmons. Remember Ben Simmons? Ben Simmons was the number 1 draft pick a few years back, wasn't he?
2016.
20 in the NBA.
Yep.
And then, of course, we know what problems he's had. He's had injury problems. He's had a lot of mental health issues. Just those awful pictures of him supposedly at training with the 76ers where he's got his cell phone in his hand and he's just not even interested in playing. Well, he's just come out with a quote. He says, I owe it to everybody, the fans and everybody, to get back to where I need to be to get ready for a great year next year. And the first question I was asking when I read that quote was, who are you even playing for, mate? Where are you?
He's still in Brooklyn.
He's at the Nets, right?
He's at the Nets, yeah.
I mean, I wish him all the best, but seriously, you were the number one draft pick 7 years ago. Is there any possibility that he gets back to...
Absolutely.
Yeah?
There was I'll tell you this now.
You know more about this
No,
than me.
absolutely. There was a point in the 20... So he was injured his whole rookie season, and so was technically a rookie in his second year, and won Rookie of the Year. In that 17-18 season, the Sixers were expected to just get into the playoffs, and they actually ended up being the third or the fourth seed, and they did really well. They won about 50 games. For the second half of that year, he did everything. He was starting to show glimpses of a jump shot, which is the only thing he needed to develop, but like Giannis, did literally everything else.
Can he hit a three?
Well, as I just said, my point is he did everything else at such a high level that I remember sitting there watching games going, this guy's going to be unstoppable if he can develop a consistent enough jump shot.
Well, I always
Which
thought that he had, and this is, to compare him to Magic Johnson sounds weird, but I thought his passing ability and his vision was magic-esque.
Yeah.
But he needs to develop a consistency over a few
Exactly.
seasons.
He's a big body, but he's mobile as hell, so he plays
Great
a point
hands,
guard position. He's one of the one of the two or three best on-ball defenders in the NBA. He's one of the absolute best in that regard.
All right, well, you got a lot of confidence
So
there.
the only problem is that he just needs to sort his head out. And it's sad that he's battled with mental health troubles, and as long as he can get past that...
Okay.
Seriously,
All right, I wish him well.
There's nothing to suggest he can't turn into another all-star level player in the NBA.
It's probably the third time I've asked you during this show already, and we've only been going an hour and 15
South
minutes.
Africa, Ireland?
I'm going to ask you about South Africa, Ireland. Yes. Have you changed your mind?
No, it's a coin flip, but I'm slightly leaning towards South Africa.
Okay, then. Waz Bronx, Penrith Storm. Who makes the grand final?
Broncos and Panthers. I'm not going to bet against my team, aside from the fact that they are the better team and they're at home and they've had a week off. But also, I think there's a gap between the Broncos and the Panthers and then the rest.
What's it going to take for the two upsets to occur? Is it, like I said at the very start of the show, that the Warriors are going to have to play the perfect game, the Storm are going to have to play the perfect game, and both the number 1 and 2 seeds have got to be off their game? That can happen.
Yeah, I think for the Broncos and Warriors, because I watch those teams much more closely than the other two, I still think the Broncos can be rattled if they go up against a team that absolutely limits their outside weapons, and that comes down to winning that battle in the middle of the field and cutting off the supply. And I think if the Broncos work through their sets and don't get rewards, there's still quite a young team that they can get a little bit shaky and nervous. Very similar thing happened against the Titans earlier this year when we lost to them at home. And we were looking for just to try to tie up the game in the last 15 minutes, but we couldn't break them, and we were just making stupid decisions. I still think that can happen. So if the Warriors complete their sets, take care of the football, have a good kicking game, and pin the Broncos in their own half, and are solid on defence. 3 things they've done really well this year, the Warriors.
True.
If they do all of that at an A+ level, they absolutely can and probably would beat the Broncos.
Yes, can they do it? The platform.
All eyes in New Zealand sport this weekend are on one match, and that's the Brisbane Broncos versus the Wawas. It is Saturday night. Our man Jason Costigan called the Warriors for over a decade here in New Zealand. He joins us with his prediction, and I've got to remind the man of what he said pre-season. This is your pre-season predictions about the other 3 that are left still standing. It's about 30 seconds.
I don't think they've got the firepower to make the 8. I'm going to tip Brisbane to finish just outside in 9th position. I think Melbourne will improve. They finished 5th last season, to jog everyone's memory. And I'm tipping Melbourne to finish in the top 4 in 3rd position. Hikau and Coruscant, huge losses for Penrith. And I believe they'll be relegated to 4th position after finishing, obviously, at the top of the pile and winning back-to-back. I don't think winning 3 on the trot is on the agenda. Oh, well, it may be on the agenda, but I can't see them pulling it off.
Brisbane 9th, you got Melbourne, they were 3rd or 4th, that's pretty good. You got Penrith in the top 4s, you got 2 of those teams in the top 4, but I mean, that's hardly being, the soothsayer, is it, when you're talking about those 3 teams? Explain yourself.
Well, I'll come back to Penrith. You start with the defending premiers, and they've been unbelievable as a club, as an organisation, as a production line, a nursery. It's an incredible story. It's not a new story. Penrith always had this in them, and it's a matter of, I suppose, milking the cow, and they've got plenty on their dairy farm, if I could be so colourful. But I don't believe... Penrith's in a grand final qualifier, but I'm confident Melbourne can beat them. So I'll come back to my prediction about the Panthers. I'm confident Melbourne can knock them over, and Penrith won't even get to defend their title.
No, okay. I mean, and you'll be one of the few that will say that. Why is that? What have Melbourne shown you since they lost to Brisbane that they can do that?
I think Melbourne's found some resilience there, and I think the holy prayer that was put up by Munster with Warbrick scoring that try. I mean, I think if you went and asked the Melbourne players and put a lie detector on them with 2 minutes to go, I'm going to assume that they would say words to the effect that, Marty, we're shot ducks, we're gone. And Munster thought it's now or never, and I'm sure Warbrick thought the same. And I expect that to really give Melbourne self-belief that they can do anything, and that includes eliminating the defending champions this weekend. So I think Melbourne have got still arguably the best coach in the competition, and that's no disrespect to Ivan Cleary with what he's achieved. I've known Ivan for a long, long time, but Craig Bellamy's been around for 30-odd years coaching now, and I still think he's got another premiership left in him, and it could well be unfolding before our very eyes this weekend, getting through to a grand final. They've got to beat the best team to get there, and it won't be easy. Most people will not be tipping Melbourne, I grant you that. But I think with Jerome Hughes, Cameron Munster, Warbrick, who's been a revelation out wide for Melbourne, I think, Remus Smith is a fantastic player. I think bringing Justin Olam back into first grade, I can't believe Bellamy would never admit to a mistake, and he hasn't been asked this by any journalist that I can recall. Did you make a mistake by leaving him out in the cold for so long? I think he did make a mistake. He doesn't make too many, and so give credit where credit's due. He thought he has to bring him back. He brought him back, and Olam has been a great plus for Melbourne in the last week and since his return. Look, they were gone, weren't they? They were gone. And Munster, I said after the game, don't be surprised if Munster wins the Churchill medal. They got to get to the grand final for him to win that honour. I really genuinely believe that Melbourne can get Penrith this week.
Let's turn our attention to the other way, because I want to give you a good 7 or 8 minutes or so, 9 minutes to rant about that. Here was you pre-season on the Warriors.
I don't believe the Warriors are going to go any way towards being a finals contender. I can tell you fibs on the program today and pump people's tyres up, and they can go around and say, hey, this is fantastic, big talk.
Yeah, Costo,
guess what?
No.
I'm going to let the air out of the tyres, Marty. I'm going to let some air out of the tyres. I can't see the Warriors improving a lot. I think they'll finish I'm predicting in 14th position.
Now, you see, but you listened to my groan during that. I didn't challenge you on that because I didn't have the faith either, mate. So I can't sit here now and say I knew better than you. But 14th, that's what you said.
Well, I'm going to challenge you. Go and find the tipsters that said the opposite to what I said. Go and find them.
No, there aren't any, mate.
You will need detectives at the New Zealand Police Force to go and get onto that case. That's a cold case for Devlin and co.
Yeah, there is. Break it down for us with your commentary call hat on. How do the Warriors beat the Broncos?
Well, I think that forward pack has got to again stand up. Has got to stand up. There's people saying that Egan should be the Dally M hooker of the year. You look at the Brisbane pack and the Brisbane players, 1 to 13, and even their bench. So many players are Origin players, internationals, but you got to forget about the CV and tackle the man. And every play the ball's got to be a contest. Simple things like getting to the end of getting to your kick. Have a look at some of the simple things, making sure that you bring the ball away from your danger zone and don't throw silly passes. Some players, they get to the cauldron, Suncorp, and they go missing in action. You think, what is this player? What is it? We've seen a couple of examples already in the final series of players. They must be having a doozy. What are they thinking? They're not thinking. So Webster, who continues to grow his legion of fans, so long as he addresses to the more less experienced players, addresses those issues. I think the Warriors will be competitive. Do I think they can win the game? Yes, I do think that. I think they can win the game. Do I think that Sean Johnson can win it on his own? No. Do I expect Brisbane to win? Yes. I'll come back to, can I think the Warriors win? Yes. But they're going to need some luck and they're going to they have to make sure they put pressure on Reece Walsh. So what was done achieving that result against Newcastle, you don't want to say it can be like for like, but they need to be able to replicate what they did with Ponga and do more. It's not just that. They need to do more because Brisbane have got strike power across the park, and Walsh, to me, is the most dangerous player on the field, but he's not alone.
Greg Martin, Marto, former Wallaby fullback, Triple M breakfast host out of Brisbane. He's on holiday. Very generously, though, is joining us again. Drew Mitchell's come out, stuck it to Eddie Jones. Massive match. Wales versus the Wallabies. Loser goes home. What's your gut feel about this game? Because there's a couple of massive games this weekend. Ireland, South Africa, Samoa play Argentina. But Wales versus Australia, you lose that, you're coming home. You know that, eh?
Yeah, of course I know that. And Wales aren't that good. I know we're not very good, but Wales aren't either. So we could possibly win it. So I haven't given up. I know everyone else is funny, etc., for Australia to be tossed out before the quarterfinals. But let's say the last 5 times we've beaten them, I think it's 3-2, and there hasn't been a difference of, I think it's 2 points, 5 points, 8 points. 8 points have been the biggest over the last 5 tests. We're both about the same crap ability. So we can win the game if we're good enough. But by Christ, geez, we need to do some tackling. We need to get better at the breakdown. We need to kick less. We need to give away less penalties. We gave away 20 penalties again. So, mate, we're at a low point in our cycle of players at the moment. We're not very good, but it's still conceivable that we can beat Wales. And then we've got a 2-week wait. If we don't beat Wales, I'll tell you what, we don't play Portugal for another 2 weeks. That's going to be a long 2 weeks for the Wallabies.
A long 2 weeks and then to catch the plane the very next day, because Fiji look as though, unless they really blow it, they got Georgia and Portugal. You've got to expect them to win those games. Drew Mitchell's comments, mate, he was having a crack on some podcast about Michael Hooper needed to be there, Quade Cooper needed to be there. Does anyone take what he's saying seriously?
Well, he's not the only one saying it, mate. It's hard to be unaware, but one of the young backs, Max Jorgensen, young 18-year-old bloke, he wasn't going to play any tests anyway. He might have played against Portugal. He broke his leg yesterday. So there is a position open. Maybe Quade's missed 20 calls from Eddie. I don't know if you remember that pre-World Cup. He wasn't answering his calls. Maybe he's picking his phone up now. But we need a 5'8" who can direct the game and who's got a bit of experience. And we need a goal kicker. Quade feels both those things. Maybe it's not a bad idea. I saw on his Instagram yesterday he's training hard. So maybe he does come over. There could be a possibility. But I think even if he came over, he can't play against Wales. So kind of what's the use? Or do we – because we've got problems with Skelton, our captain. He's out. Tupou's out, our best front rower. So we're in a bit of strife. But as I said again, we could still beat Wales.
Brewees. Brisbane is just going to be jam-packed with Kiwis and most of them heading to the Warriors versus the Broncos, mate. How do you see this one?
Oh, I love your fans. That was crazy last Saturday night over there. So they'll bring a fair bit of that. Brisbane's gone a bit nutso about this whole thing because Kiwis really support their league over. And I think you send all your league fans rather than your rugby fans over to Brisbane. So there'll be plenty of them. Broncos are crazy. I'll give you an indication how popular this thing is. This week, on Monday, our Courier Mail, our newspaper, started giving you a 4-part Reece Walsh poster. It started with his calves and boots, and then there was his beautiful thighs were on Tuesday. You got the lift-out poster. It's a life size. It gets put together in 4 parts. Yesterday, the girls all went crazy because it was the torso and crotch region. Today's the chest. Does that happen anywhere else?
No.
Like your major newspapers, the centre page lift-out. But do you understand what's happening in Brisbane? In terms of centre of the universe, forget about the Rugby World Cup in France. So we've got the AFL, an enormous game of AFL, the qualifier for the grand final, is on at 5 o'clock, and then at 10 to 8 is the Wars versus the Broncos. So there's going to be 86,000 people wandering the streets of Brisbane on Saturday night. It's crazy.
And every one of them munted, and absolutely brilliant. Good Lord. Yeah, that's just, that's it. Look, this is what we need to be 30 years younger, mate. 40 years younger, don't we? We really do. You know?
Yeah, that's right. My kid said, "Are you going to the footy, Dad?" I said, "Why would I want to go and throw myself in amongst that? There's perfectly good televisions with people who know what they're doing to show it to me." Yeah. So, there's my attitude, love. I'm getting old.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
That is a disgusting act.
The Platform.